All right, good afternoon. Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear me in the comments, please? Just want to double check. Also, okay. I have about a minute until 4:30, so I'll wait about a minute before we get started. But yeah, if you saw before the little face shield, we did purchase enough of those for all the staff. So we're still working on all those processes and everything. But I'll mention that here in a second, not to get ahead of myself. But um, we do have those, and of course, masks are good also. But I was trying out the new face shield that we just received, and I got one yesterday. Who would have thought people would be happy with a face shield swag? All right, so just a couple of things as before we get started. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the live chat. I'll do my best to talk and also monitor the live chat in real time and answer any questions that may come up that you may have. If I miss your question, I promise you it's not on purpose. Feel free to type it again if you want to, but I'll do my best to go over what we want to talk about and cover today, but also kind of monitor to the best of my ability the live chat. Um, so we'll go ahead and get started. And a few things on the agenda today. I want to talk quickly about race and equity. I want to talk about our district budget, and then last but not least, just the reopening of schools process and where we are as a district through that work. But to start, in terms of race and equity, I think that a number of you have emailed me, left me messages regarding the comments and the letter that we shared across the district on our stance on what's going on in our country right now, and also what we have experienced. I want to thank those of you who messaged me about some of the things that were being shared by our own students on social media to ensure that the district was aware of those comments and hurtful um, things that were being shared, and give us the ability to address it before they become too big. So as always, if you see anything like that on social media, feel free to send it to me, and that way we can address it. Even though we're not in school in session right now, we want to have that information so that we can address it to the best of our ability. But what we see going on in our country, oftentimes is mirrored here in our own community. There are a number of things that have happened. Most recently, a very disturbing thing that happened at a local church out in the Dale area, and so we're certainly not immune to the what's going on across our nation in terms of race and equity. And I just want to assure all of you guys that as a district, we feel very strongly that this has to be a safe place for everyone to work, and for kids to certainly come and learn. We're going to do everything possible to create a system that supports everyone, every type of student. And we'll be talking more about that as we get closer to the school year, and certainly during in service and those types of things. But I did want to thank you, of course, for sharing the information with me personally and with your principals as well. Um, we also have actually a team of teachers, three teachers who are emerging leaders who are also undertaking an equity audit as part of their coursework, but will also share their findings from their research with the district, and we'll incorporate that in our plan. So I want to thank those folks for doing that. Also, as a part of that, not only a part of the audit, but some of the things that we're just looking at to ensure we have equity. Obviously the Wi-Fi. We just announced last night, if you have not heard, that will be going one-to-one kinder through 12th grade. And also that we'll be supplying school supplies for all of our students. So we want to ensure that that our kids have everything that they need to be successful, and we think that that's an important step in order for our kids to have access to a great education. Other things we're looking at, in terms of courses kids are taking, GT, everything looking at it with an equity lens and to ensure that, that our own biases or our own systems aren't causing any students or limiting their access to things. So I wanted to start with that just as a key point. So in terms of our budget, last night we did approve, the Board of Trustees approved a budget, a little over $60 million budget at our meeting last night. So first I want to thank our board for going through that process. It's a very rigorous process that really starts in December and January. So each month, we've been working through the process, looking at all the information that goes into that. And more recently have had a number of special call meetings just for the purposes of looking at building our budget. So some of those things that are in there we've been talking about, so they may not be surprises to you, but the board certainly approved it and made it final last night. One of those things is, of course, our compensation package is a part of that. So as a reminder, we're looking at the November paycheck period for everyone to get 1% of the midpoint for LISD staff, and then 1% of the median for our teaching staff, as a one-time payment to as part of your compensation package. Also, the district finalized and approved our new health insurance opportunity through Texas School Health Benefit Program. And we're very excited about that, especially, and living in a pandemic. We know that, health insurance is so important always, but especially now, especially when you look at the cost for out-of-pocket expenses that we know TRS, has some issues with. So we're very excited and hope that you'll look closely at which one's going to be the best for your family. But just some highlights. The out-of-pocket maximums that are new coverage, depending on the package that you buy, but you're looking anywhere from $3,900 to $4,800 in out-of-pocket savings. So I encourage you each year, when I was a principal and even as in the central office, I've talked to employees, and sometimes people will say, well, I didn't really look at the insurance. I just kind of did what I always did. I want to encourage you this year, especially now that you do have some options, to really look at those, pay attention to the details of those plans to make the best decision for you, especially living in with COVID-19. Something you also might want to consider, the district does offer disability, short-term disability insurance. It's something that you may want to consider this year, given the current context of what we're living with. You want to let everybody know that open enrollment, this is important, so write this down, please. Open enrollment will be from July the 15th to August the 15th. So we'll be sharing and communicating all the information that you need to make the right decision. But in terms of a timeline, that July 15th will be the first day for open enrollment. A few other things on our budget. We did finalize all the pre-K investments, all the K through third grade intervention teacher investments, and as well as the school supply. So I want to tell you briefly what we did on the school supply. So we looked at our supply list from last year and essentially looked at all those things that were on there, from markers to Ziploc baggies to Kleenex, everything that teachers had on there, and just did a cost analysis, for our bulk prices. So that's what we're planning on purchasing. So, so just wanted to share some information about that. So I already had a teacher ask me about Kleenexes, and yes, and I went and double checked. Kleenexes were on the list last year, so that's something that we are purchasing this year because it was on the list last year. Um, so a couple of assumptions, when we build a budget, we build a budget not knowing a lot of things, and this is what happens as part of the school finance system. It happens every single year. But for example, our tax collections, the appraisal rates across the county, all those things are not firm yet, but we'll get that soon in the next few months. But there are a couple of other assumptions that go into the budget. So as you know, we're a fast growth district, so we're always trying to monitor how much the district is going to grow, so we can add that growth in our budget projections. So because of everything going on, we've been very conservative with our projections. We actually had a demographic report in the fall, but because of everything happening, we got a new demographic report that we just received a couple weeks ago, just to have the most up to date information. And our growth rate, although we've always been at that 3% growth rate, and that's usually what we budget for, we are slowing that down to a 1.9% growth rate, just to be a little more conservative with what's going on. Obviously, if you drive around town, you still see some houses going up, apartments opening. Certainly in the rural areas, you still see some movement on mobile homes and those types of things, but we did slow that down. Also, the other big thing that contributes to our budget and funding is ADA, so average daily attendance. So when we looked at planning for next year, essentially we looked at what is our attendance rate for this year, and projected that for this coming year budget. So the reason why I say that, it's important because I just got off a call with TEA, and TEA has been kind of kicking the can down the road and sharing their guidance for opening up school. And I shouldn't be surprised, but I really thought it was going to happen today because they've already canceled 3 other times. But they canceled again today on telling us information about opening schools. But what they did tell us was how we would receive funding for distance learning. So kids are in distance learning, and they're going to use a attendance system similar like what we do for kids who are present. As we know from experience this spring, attendance and distance learning, we had some struggles with when you compare it to our regular attendance rate of around 96%. So that is something that we're going to have to work very hard on, knowing that TEA today just shared this news with us that we will have to take attendance for kids in distance learning this coming school year. So we have some work to do there on what that looks like. But that, of course, is important because we're budgeting using our attendance rate for last year. So we're going to have to work on monitoring that very closely once school year opens. All right, let me see. Someone asked a question about hand sanitizer. Yes, we've purchased, but we'll just talk just broadly. So we've purchased hand sanitizer. We've also purchased PPE, the protective, personal protective equipment. We've purchased a lot of that, everything from mask, hand sanitizer, portable hand washing sinks and stations, so that we can put those around the campuses. Yes, but certainly we do have a lot of hand sanitizer. Every classroom will have a hand sanitizer station that will be refilled. But we have a lot of plans for keeping our buildings clean and keeping our children and ourselves also sanitized. The mask, these things are in stock already, so we purchase all those as well. We did get notification that the TEA will be sending us some PPE as well, but we're not going to hold our breath on that one. So we went ahead and purchased our own, and if we get the TEA, that'll be some extra PPE that we'll have for the district. But we went ahead and bought that before TEA announced they were going to give us some. So speaking of PPE, I wanted to go over a couple things on reopening schools and where we are in that process. So we're still, we started building some models actually today. Our campus principals met all day long, and they actually may still be meeting, or they may be listening, but they've been in conversations all day long, looking at different models of what school may look like. And I say this also knowing that TEA has not given us their guidance. We thought that we were going to get it 2 weeks ago. We thought we were going to get the guidance again last week. We thought we were going to get the guidance today at 3 o'clock, and still did not receive that guidance. But we cannot just wait for TEA. We're planning and trying to build models, and then when we do get the guidance from TEA, if we have to make adjustments, thank you, Ms. Brent. If we do have to make adjustments, we'll adjust our models based on the TEA guidance. But our team is working very hard on building that. I want to share the information they're using. So one of the big ones is the thought exchange. So I have just a kind of a summary there, but I want to thank everyone who participated in the thought exchange a couple weeks ago. We had 377 participants. So that's a really good sampling of our staff. And we had over 634 thoughts and over 22,000 ratings. So with so many ratings and so many thoughts, we're able to get some trends, which is helping our principals and our team build some preliminary plans. The big thing that you guys told us was that actually it wasn't about safety or anything. We'll get to that. But it was actually about accountability, and especially during distance learning. So when we went to distance learning, what you guys have told us through the thought exchange is that there were a lot of issues with kids and parents not participating or not showing up to their classes or not turning in their work, those types of things. So we're planning on what does that look like? What is our grading system going to look like? We kind of had this sprung on us, but now we have some time to plan. So we will be looking at how we take grades for distance learning to hopefully help with those with that accountability concern that you guys shared on the thought exchange. And then other things that you guys said very clearly were a lot of cleaning things, sanitizing, cleaning the rooms, disinfecting the schools when kids are back in the building, the emotional well-being of students, so the social emotional component also came up. The issue of teachers not getting a duty-free lunch, that was pretty high also. I know that was one of the criteria that our principals had when they built their models was, ensuring that we're still taking care of our staff and not expecting them to be in a room without a break or lunch or planning time or those types of things. So, those things are being developed as part of our opening school. So I want people to know that, we expect all leaders to have a Lockhart for people, and that's something that will be demonstrated with our plans when we open up school to ensure that we're taking care of you guys to the best of our ability. Just a host of different suggestions on how to keep our schools clean, how to ensure that it's as safe as possible. And I can assure you our principals have this document and have looked thoroughly through those things as background knowledge for them to consider in building their plans. Another key important piece of information was the parent survey that we gave a couple weeks ago as well. And in that survey, it told us a lot. One of the things that we're going to ask here in a couple weeks, we're going to actually ask our parents to register their child, not just complete a survey of what their preference is, because we need to know exactly, is their kid going to come to a school building, or are they going to keep them home to help us finalize our plans. But on this survey, what it told us was that at least 20% of our parents were not going to send their kids back to school. They were uncomfortable with doing so. So we know that we certainly have a large group of kids and parents who want a distance learning option. So we're trying to lift up a distance learning option for those students, and then plan for what does school look like for the rest of the kids who return. I think it's logical. I think it's logical to think that number is going to increase if we continue to see the trends that are happening across the state with a rise in cases and a rise in hospitalizations. We'll continue to monitor that, and we're going to wait as long as possible before we have to have our parents register. But our kind of our the timeline that we're looking at is to communicate and share. Your kid's going to be at home, your kid's going to be at school. This is what it's going to look like in the mid July. Um, it, um, Mid July time span, which is still kind of a long time from school, almost a month out from school. But that's what we're looking at right now at this time. We will. So the principals are meeting. They're coming up with the models. I will be. We had about 40 to 50 teachers who have shared. And if you should have received an email from myself or Corinne Yanez, my assistant, a week or two ago, saying that we had you on the list um, and that you'll receive more information. If you did not receive that email from me and you submitted your name to be on that committee, then please shoot me an email again. Feel free to, but you should have received that email, and then you'll be receiving something from me today or tomorrow regarding when that day is going to be. I just want to meet with the principals and make sure that we're in a good place to share that with the teacher committee. And then we'll bring a parent focus group in early July and kind of share what those options are going to look like. Um, but beforehand, and then we'll put it out to the staff and share it with you guys, and then we'll share it broadly and make it official mid July. Let me stop there and read some of these questions. Thank you, Michelle, for answering the benefits questions. So, Ms. Adair, we're still looking at the protocols for quarantine. That's part of the guidance that we're waiting for the state on the expectations of if someone is exposed or if someone gets COVID-19, what are the expectations from the state of Texas on how we quarantine and how we address that. So we'll have those answers hopefully soon. Um, So, Mr. Salazar, in terms of teachers, home apply, does option work for home? So we're still working from that right now. We do know that we will have a distance learning option. We don't know what that model is gonna look like. We've had different ideas about what that's gonna look like, but we'll have more information to share with that. We will need obviously people to do distance learning. Right now, I can't say who would get to do that because I don't know how many kids are going to do that, and also how many staff are going to do that. But we will have that option. I'm just not sure how many teachers will be doing that at this time yet. So substitutes is something that we are looking at with HR. As you guys know, a number of our substitutes we've are we have, I'll say this, so about a quarter of our substitutes are over 60 and another quarter are over 50. So that's something that we're working to try to figure out how many of those folks are still going to sub this coming school year. And then also some of the strategies that schools typically use when a sub doesn't fill, we know aren't going to be an option. You're not going to be able to combine classes or go to the cafeteria or things like that. So we're still working through what happens when a sub doesn't fill. We have a list of literally well over 100 questions, specific things like that we're working through still. Um, Steering. So we do have enough thermometers to do the checks. We're not sure on what that process is going to look like right now. Um, we're still waiting for guidance on TEA on what that process is going to look like. Their concerns about how just logistically, how can you do that every day? Is that a realistic thing that you can do every day to do temperature checks? We're prepared if we need to do that. If we decide to do that, we've purchased plenty of thermometers to do that, but we're still waiting for guidance on TEA about how we can do that. So in service, we've published the schedule is on our website. Miss Brent, do you want to put the date on that? I don't have it in front of me, but it is on our website. Miss Mulberry, yes, we've asked teachers to be on the committee. If you'd like to review the models we're looking at for school, then you're welcome to. Just shoot me an email and I can add you on the list. And then yes, Miss Brass. Um, Ms. Weber will certainly help us with any final recommendations and any plans um, to ensure that we have the health services. All right, let me scan just to make sure I didn't miss any questions. I think we have about 5 minutes. If you have any other questions that I have not answered, feel free to um, put them in the live chat. Yeah, I'll say too, while I'm waiting, a number of you, I get a lot of emails from you guys, and that's great. And I want to encourage you to feel free to do that because it is helpful, when you share ideas about, what distance learning could look like or what in-person learning could look like. We do, include that in our feedback. So feel free to do that. It seems like a lot of you'll do that and say, sorry if I shouldn't be doing this, but feel comfortable in doing that. It's okay. I welcome your feedback. So, Mr. Salazar, yes. So, in terms of expectations for staff, um, let me make sure. Are there teacher expectations from all? Yes, so our staff will have expectations, and I can tell you right now that a mask or a face shield, we haven't decided, if it's one or the other, or both, but we will have expectations for staff on campus to adhere to, and certainly either a mask or a face shield at minimum will be what will be the expectation, as well as social distancing, what will be the expectation, as well as, you know, um, limiting group gatherings. I know that, part of what makes schools a special place is the camaraderie and the relationships that you build. And I think that we need to start thinking about, that's gonna be different this year. We're used to socializing together, but again, the none of this is final. But I think just in general, it's true and important to where our goal is going to be to keep everyone safe first and foremost, and also to keep our schools open, and so that our kids have an opportunity to learn. And the only way to do that is to try to limit the potential for the virus to spread. So yes, we will take all of those things very seriously in limiting the spread of the virus at school. Mr. Bowes, yes, we still have the ACE program, so that'll continue. I'm not sure what that'll look like exactly, but we still have the ACE program this coming year. Are there any plans for Cub House? Yes, Cub House. We actually will be in a new location this year in the old technology building behind Clear Fork and Navarro Elementary. So it's a much more centralized location. It's been renovated completely this summer, so we're excited about that. We will be sending information, if we have not done so already, regarding the need for Clubhouse if you have a child of your own. And you'll also have some other general questions about child care that you should be receiving very soon if you have not done so already. Um, okay. In terms of UIL sports, no information on UIL yet. That's I think UIL or not. I think I know UIL is waiting for TEA to share their guidance before they can make any decisions. And I think once we get something from from TEA, we'll hear something from the UIL. Actually, um, text Coach Mavis about an hour ago, and we still have not heard anything as of that time. Yeah, I think any self quarantine guidelines by the CDC. I think those are you need to follow those things, and we'll be getting those guidelines as well. At this time, of course, we're still planning to have art and music classes. I think that's an important part to educating the whole child. So we're still planning on doing that. How that looks, is obviously going to have to potentially look different. A lot of it depends on how many kids stay home too. How many kids do distance learning will greatly impact what our offerings will look like in the school buildings. The more kids that come to the school building, in this example, in terms of electives and music and art, I think the more impact it'll have on it, because we have to look at class sizes and things like that. Um, but yes, we still will offer the entire curriculum in terms of all the TEKS and course offerings that kids usually have. In terms of the platform, I think so. Maybe you're referring to like Google Classroom. I think is what you're referring to. We'll be looking at using Google Classroom. Um, In terms of students, yes, our plans right now will be for students to wear a mask. We've purchased a lot of extra masks for kids. Part of the survey, when we surveyed our parents, we had a question that said, if you had to wear a mask, would you be able to provide your own mask? And about 90% of our parents said that they would provide their own mask or could provide their own mask. And so, yes, that will be an expectation for kids to wear masks. And we have thousands of masks for kids who forget them or need one for that day. So we're prepared in terms of masks. Um, and Lene, I don't have a specific answer regarding PE. Obviously, with the numbers that we typically run, we're gonna have to look at that. And I haven't had time to review if the principals had a plan for that today. But we'll be sharing. We'll share more information soon about that. All right. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. It looks like we had a pretty good audience. Well over 300, which tells me that you guys still want to receive the communication. And I think that I hope that no one gets the impression that I'm not trying to answer your questions, but please trust that we have to wait for some guidance from TEA, and we're constantly walking the line of of trying to move forward and plan for things, but also understanding that we can't move forward too much and without the TA guidance and the rules that we're going to have to comply with. But we're trying our best to continue to plan, and even though we don't have the guidance from TA. Again, today was the fourth time that TA canceled on us on sharing the back to school um, expectations that they would have. So I'm not sure when we're going to get that, but as soon as we do, we will look at that and compare it to our current plans and then make any adjustments. But again, this is kind of a last call. If you want to be on that committee, please email me. I have a little less than 50 on it right now, and you'll be getting an email from me about a Google Meet where I'll share the different models we have with you and get your feedback on those models before we share anything with parents and kind of move forward with that. But again, I want to thank you guys for your attention today. We will be in touch um, again very soon. And lastly, I know it's hard to disconnect from the media, social media, all those things. But I want to encourage you guys to take some time for yourself. I can assure you that we are working every day to plan for a successful school year, and I want you to ensure that you're rested because we know when we come back to school in August, we're going to need you, um, ready and rested. So spend this time with your family. Know that we're working. We're doing everything that we can to prepare, and then we'll get your feedback when we have things and plans to get feedback on, and then we'll communicate with you when we have that. But in the meantime, don't freak out when you see things on Facebook. Know that we are working and we're going to um, do our best to do right by our kids and to do right by you as our staff members. So thank you guys and have a great day. Thank you.